Most dragons don't look powerful when they're flying. They look like lizards stuck in the air. Today I'm going to show you how to make a dragon feel like it's actually moving, cutting through the clouds and breathing fire. And in the next video, we're going to place this dragon into a full magical scene with a unicorn. The biggest mistake people make is drawing the wings like decorations instead of engines. And if the wings don't feel like they're actually pushing air, nothing else will save it. Later, I'll show you the one adjustment that instantly makes fire look explosive instead of flat like this one. So let's start drawing, and we're going to put in movement before we add any details. Before we add the scales, the claws, the fire, anything else, we're just simply drawing the spine and some simple shapes for the head. And here's the lower abdomen. Here we're adding the tail. I'm using really simple shapes and I'm pressing very, very lightly in pencil so that we can erase it afterwards. Here I'm adding the underside of the neck and now the top part of the neck. It's already starting to take shape. I'm going to add an oval to the head area next to the circle and then join it up and the lower jaw. Now for the wings. Think of dragon wings like outstretched hands and the way that they move. So you draw kind of, this is the wrist joint, let's say, these little dots that I'm adding here. And out of them come all the finger prongs, I'll call them, for want of a better word. So just draw them all coming out of the same area. Same kind of structure, similar to the hand. So you can move all the different parts. Also notice that one wing is slightly more forward than the other, so that asymmetry also creates motion. If you see in this little cutaway, these wings are perfectly symmetrical and it kind of kills all the realism. So remember, if I go too quickly, just hit pause and rewind. Here I'm drawing the front leg, so these are the joints, I'm just joining them up. And then for the actual pause, I'm using just an oval shape. I'm doing that for each one just to get the basic composition correct. Now we're going to be adding in the membranes to the wings. So think of bats' wings. So they kind of have a little dip in between all the digits. So here's one. And now we'll do the other one, very similar, with these very fine membranes. Remember to keep the perspective. I'm going to be adding an eye, so a line and then a half circle underneath. And then I'm switching to pen here, just so you can see it better on camera. I'm going to add a little bit of the detail. So I'm adding the outline, and then now I'm going to be doing the, I guess, paws, they're called, and the claws in a bit more detail so that you can see them. So just follow along with me. I'm following the preparatory lines we did before, but adding a tiny bit more muscle, making it look a little bit more realistic. I'll do the belly and then the underside of the neck. Here I'm adding the detail, so we're doing the eye in detail. And this upper layer, the upper eyelid, kind of forms into a kind of horn. So it's got two. We'll keep the face looking rather symmetrical. Add the eye. And then I've drawn a little line diagonally down to the nostrils so that the eye and the nostrils are diagonally placed. Got a little kind of ridge for the nose area. Then I'm doing the upper lip and then some more little kind of fanned horns at the side. Kind of think of dinosaurs. I'm going nice and slowly so you can draw along with me. Now for the mouth. And just colour in the air inside. Add the other eye. Now for the fire! Do you remember earlier I mentioned the mistake that makes fire look kind of flat? Or it's because people draw it like just one big shape, like a big blob. So real fire has direction, it stretches, it thins, and then there are bits that break off apart. So that's kind of what I'm doing here, lots of licks and curls. So it's not perfectly symmetrical, and as you notice, it's going diagonally. This kind of follows on with the shape of movement that the dragon's moving diagonally towards the bottom right hand corner of the page. So as you can see, I've added little kind of flicks coming off it. It's just not one big huge mass. And notice how dramatic this feels up here in the sky with the fire. So in the next video, we're going to balance that kind of fiery energy with soft reflections and flowing water. So it's completely different movement and style. Can you see how it's getting slightly bigger the further away from the dragon it is? So it's kind of like flaring out. I'm now adding the spikes on the back of the neck. I'm doing this in real time so that you can follow along with me. Just adding every single spike, and particularly if you're doing it in pen, we don't want to make a mistake, but please feel free to carry on in pencil and then we can erase it all at the end. It's much easier doing it that way. So all along the back, all along the spine. And then for the other side, we're going to be drawing a line just to make it a little bit easier. And then we're going to be adding the spikes to that line. So if you just follow that preparatory line that we did before, and then now you can add the spikes. So we're just adding the last of the spikes onto the back. And now we're just adding a little line underneath on the other side. And to the big claws. So we're just doing the other side. Make sure that you can see the long claws or talons on the end. Ready to grip onto its prey. Now for the wings. So we're going over those preparatory lines that we did before, but we're making them look a little bit more realistic. So giving it some depth and some volume. Always have in your mind bat's wings. That's what I think about when I draw dragon's wings even. So just do all the digits first like we did before, and then I'm adding like just a tiny little hook on the end, or like the end of a claw on the end. They're almost like the fingernails. And now obviously the membrane, so just go over the parts that we did before. This section's quite easy because we're just repeating what we did before. And now onto the other side. So just doing the joint where it joins onto the body. It's got to all flow and look like one. So with the other wing, I'm just going to speed this up a little bit because it is just repeating what we did on the first wing, and we're just going over the preparatory lines that we've done before. So now we're going to be adding the hind leg. So just drawing it in, this is kind of the thigh area, and then adding in the heel, and then the ball of the foot, and a couple of digits on the end. Make them quite spiky. There we go. And now for the underbelly and the tail. So we're just really going over the preparatory lines that we did before. Just making them look a little bit more lifelike. I'm going to make it look a little bit more 3D and at the top side. This is where our other spikes are going to go. So we've got to carry on those spikes. Do them all the way to the tip of the tail. And then at the end, we're going to add a little forked part. Et voila! I've erased all the pencil lines so you can only see the pen. So here I'm going to be adding some detail. Instead of drawing every single scale, which we can't possibly do, it will take forever, I'm going to draw some curved lines just to add volume. Particularly here on the top of the shoulder, you can see they're really curved. That makes it look quite voluminous and adds some depth to the drawing. Now I'm using cross hatching, which means I'm going in the opposite direction, just to make it look a little bit more like scales and also to add shadow. I'm adding a few to the nose and muzzle area. Also, don't forget to do the underside of the wings. A little bit more cross hatching, so it makes it look really scaly without having to actually add it to every single part of the drawing. I'm now going to add to the fire just to make it look really alive. So here I'm drawing the outline of the clouds to give a little bit more detail to the sky. So the dragon's kind of flapping its wings against these giant clouds. I've always loved drawing fantasy creatures like this. It's kind of like the same approach that I use in my animal studies as well. So if you've enjoyed this one, do check out my other videos. So we're just adding a little bit more detail. Make sure that every single cloud is different. They don't look the same. And you can have some fun here. Just draw lots of wiggly lines. It's just the outline of them. Now I'm adding some diagonal lines just on the underside, just to make it look like they're quite menacing or they're going to be storm clouds. Just adds a little bit of shadow here. So let's contrast it to the initial stiff-looking dragon. It's the same creature, just a different structure, and we've added movement first and detail second. So now that this dragon feels alive in the sky, the next step is placing it into a full magical composition. In the next video in this Myth, Nature and Movement series, we'll build the full scene. I'll show you how to combine fire, clouds, water and reflections without it becoming too chaotic. So make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss it.